Hello, fabulous Cancer. Welcome to your horoscope for the month of November 2014, Love Focus. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. As I spoke about in the overview horoscope for this month, it's such an important month for you where it comes to love in just so many respects. There are so many things that are taking place that speak to developments in the context of love. And they are manyfold, actually. So I'm going to strive to break it down, okay? One thing that happens in the early part of the month is that we have a full moon taking place. Now, for you, full moons, the moon is your ruling luminary, your ruling planet. It's not actually a planet, it is a luminary, but it is sort of your representative in the sky. And so lunar events are significant for you, regardless of what they're doing. They tend to be more significant for you, all else being equal, than they would for another sign or another placement. So we've got this full moon taking place, but this particular full moon is speaking in supreme harmony with Mars and Pluto currently in your opposite sign. What we also have happening this month, just days after this particular new moon happens in the early part of the month, just days later, we have Mars and Pluto meeting together in your opposite sign. So they have what astrologers call a conjunction. They meet each other in your opposite sign. And this does indicate a moment of truth in relationships. It does indicate sort of a make or break moment, if you will, in the context of love and in relationship. And the fact that this full moon is speaking in such supreme harmony with this configuration does suggest that you are empowered by the changes and you are the one directing the changes as well. You are being lifted by them. You are being strengthened really right to your core by the changes that take place for you now. But that's not the only thing that's happening. What we also have happening is right around the same time of the meeting of Mars and Pluto, we have Mercury re-entering the part of the sky for you, the part of the sky for you that has to do with romance, that has to do with love, with the feelings of love. This has been a lesson that you've been engaged in since the very last days of September. What takes place for you beginning a week into this month and going forward, what takes place for you is going to speak to developments, understandings, inspirations, concerns that began for you at the very end of September and in the first part of October. So the developments that start happening will speak to what began at that time. And so if you, towards the very end of September and the beginning of October, if you met somebody new, this is the time when clarity starts to take root, where you understand who it is that you're with, what it is that's actually going on here, what you're really getting yourself into. If you broke up with somebody, if you had a situation arise that ended up leading to a breakup or a major decision, well, this is a time when you revisit that and you find a sense of deeper understanding that will either lead to, which often does lead to, I gotta say, if you broke up with somebody at the very end of September and beginning of October, chances are you're not going to stay broken up. Chances are this is going to be a time when things sort of reach a peaceful place, if you will. And further clarity comes in. If there was a misunderstanding, that gets cleared up as well. If you are somebody who might have sort of made an ultimate decision in the context that affected a relationship, this becomes a time when you change course, or you change your mind, or you get a fuller picture of the consequences of your relationship and get to decide what it is that you want to do next. Under all this, while all this is happening, you've got this energy of the full moon, bringing things to light, bringing things to culmination, and this full moon speaking so harmoniously with Mars, with Pluto, does suggest that, as I said, you're clear. You understand what needs to change. You understand where you need to change. It's like you understand what your next steps are going to be. and you feel empowered by the steps that you are taking as well. And there seems to be a very strong element here of it being very self-directed also. It isn't so much, now ordinarily, all else being equal, Mars and Pluto together, meeting in your opposite sign, can be one of those make or break moments. And that's not the only thing that's happening. The more I think about the sky for you, the more I realize it's actually happening. Within days after this meeting of Mars and Pluto, we have taking place Venus meeting in the sky, the ruling planet of your opposite sign, meeting Saturn in the sky as well. And so you put all this together, there's so much celestial phenomenon taking place. And ultimately what it comes down to is make or break moment, choice time, decision time, where it comes to love. And it is really about change. It's about being honest with yourself about where you are, being honest about where change needs to happen deeply, and being honest about whether or not it can happen within your current circumstances or not, and then making a change as a result. So within the context of a partnership, I think that this sky is going to speak very strongly within the context of a partnership, especially the conjunctions of Mars and Pluto and then Venus and Saturn. These conjunctions are going to speak very, very powerfully to your understanding of just where you are in the context of this bond, who it is that you're actually with, what's been upsetting you. If anything's been upsetting you, what is it really about? What's at the core of it? And I think a lot of you are going to find, I'm going to be really honest about this, I think at least some of you are going to find that it might not necessarily be about the other person. We do have Pluto involved here. We do have Mars involved here as well. But especially when I look at Pluto, and Pluto having to do with feelings of betrayal, having to do with jealousy as well, it may not necessarily be that your partner has done something that would lead you to feel that way. It might actually be your own jealousy issues that are coming up for you to heal. Now that is a possibility. That doesn't mean that your partner didn't do anything. I'm not saying that. I don't have the exact individual chart in front of me. But all else being equal, there is certainly that possibility, and especially considering that Mercury is retrograde, will now finish shadow, there is certainly that possibility where you come to realize that a lot of the issues that you've been projecting onto your partner are not about the partner at all. It is about you and what needs to change and adjust within you. So that's a very strong possibility as well. But ultimately, this is, you know, deal breaker moment, make or break moments where you kind of say to yourself, this is the truth and actuality and core of what is actually happening. And this is what I got to change. This is what needs to happen. And if it can't happen here, I am okay moving on. I am okay making the changes that need to be made. And as I said, a lot of you are going to find the changes have very little to do with your partner and have a lot to do with you. Those of you who have somebody in your sphere, I do think that it is going to be the Mercury retrograde and now Mercury finishing shadow that is going to speak very strongly, as well as Venus meeting Saturn in the sky. And so I look at these two occurrences taking place. Mercury re-entering the part of the sky that has to do with love and romance and dating and flirting. Venus meeting Saturn in this part of the sky as well. And this is you being honest about just who you've been flirting with, just who have you been interested in, just what is going on here in the context of this bond. This is you getting clear about, being honest about how it is that you really feel. What do you really feel? If you've been dating somebody, I do think this element of you, you know, if you've been dating somebody and then you wrote them off, or you thought, oh my God, I can't believe that person turned out to be this. This is you sort of setting things right. This is you getting the final clear message and understanding where maybe there was some miscommunication, where there was misunderstanding, whether it was on your part or their part. This is setting the record straight. That's ultimately what it comes down to. Venus meeting Saturn in this part of the sky for you is setting the record straight. Those of you who are open to love, are single and open to love, I do think that this is going to represent a very important time of you understanding much more deeply what you have been attracted to, okay, and why you've been attracted to the type of people that you have. And so there's very likely, as I look at the sky, very likely to be some type of flirtation, possibly with a friend. And it leads you to kind of say to yourself, okay, what's really going on here? What am I doing? What do I really want? Why am I interested in this person? And that leads to a lot of self-honesty and a lot of deeper considerations as to why you're drawn to what you're drawn to. It might be that, you know, as I look at the sky, it might be that a friend does something rather small that leads you to feel that there may be an attraction there, that leads you to consider how you really feel about them. But there is going to be a need for you to be honest with yourself if you're really drawn to them for who they are, or is it that you just want to have the experience of love and the experience of flirtation? Is it really about them or not? Some of you are going to experience it in that context, but I do think a lot of you out there are likely to experience some type of flirtation that leads you to examine a lot more deeply what it is that you want and why it is that you want it. You know, I'm thinking I look at these symbols, one very classic way that this could play out for you is, you know, if you find yourself attracted to somebody who's, you know, the bad boy or the bad girl, but you say that you want respect and commitment and stability, well, by definition, the sort of archetype of the bad boy or the bad girl is somebody who wouldn't be able to offer that, who doesn't have that to give. And so why is it that you'd be drawn to somebody like that if you say that your stated intention is to feel respected, to feel stability, to feel a sense of commitment? These are the types of awakenings that are set to happen for you, but ultimately these are awakenings that are going to help you to move towards greater love. That's ultimately what it comes down to. The sky is all about change. Whether it's you changing how you understand your role and what has been in love, or you changing your circumstances in love, that's what this is written all over the sky now. A lot of honesty is set to take place. A lot of resolution is set to take place, but also some very powerful changes as well. Changes that empower you, that leave you feeling strong, and leave you feeling that you genuinely are moving towards greater love than you have known before.